The good news is coming in like a tidal wave, and we're going to talk about all of it on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 170 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
So we got a little bit of catch up to do because we were off last week. We just got through Halloween season, and there was some fun Halloween stuff that we've seen. And for some reason, the theme for a few things has been, oh, wait till you see what happens at the end. And we're definitely going to talk about that. But before we get started, we got to talk about the big shocker, the thing I never saw coming, but of course you did. We have a new CEO at DC Films, or we should say we have two.
They heard us. They listened to the Geek Watch podcast, and they took our advice.
Well, they took your advice because I was saying, this is probably not going to be a big deal. They'll put somebody in. It's not going to be earth-shaking. And I couldn't have been any more wrong about that if I just said, you know what they ought to do? They ought to make James Gunn the CEO. But, of course, they're never going to do that. But I would have said that. If somebody you said, hey, they should make James Gunn. I'm like, they're not going to make James Gunn. And look what they did.
Surprise!
Surprise! So I still don't know if that means that they're not going to piecemeal sell the Warner Brothers off eventually, but they intend to make it really nice and shiny before they do.
Yeah, it was definitely a good move, I think, on their part. Be it James Gunn himself or he with his team behind him or just letting him take the reins, whatever they are planning to do, I think this is going to be a good move.
I think so too. You know who I feel sorry for? Peter Safran. I feel really sorry for him. And do you know why I feel sorry for him?
Why is that?
First of all, do you know who Peter Safran is?
No idea. That's
why I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him because he's the other CEO.
Ah, okay. All right.
But nobody's talking about him.
No, I have no idea who that is.
Peter,
is that our next Doctor Who runner? Sounds very British.
We'll get to the next Doctor Who. But no, Peter Safran is the other CEO. He's the co-CEO, and he is the CEO that gets all the crappy parts of the CEO job. See, you've got James Gunn, who gets to do all the creative. He's creative focus. He'll be making stuff and directing, and also guiding all the creative stuff. And then you turn to Peter Safran, and it's like, how do we pay for it?
He's the hand of the king.
He's the business side, which Peter Safran, he's directed films before. Here I am about to say, well, he's just as creative. But then he did the Scary Movie and all those, if you remember that stream of
parodies,
the parodies that we, he's responsible for those. Not that I would have any hatred for anybody or wish ill for anyone, but he did make those movies.
Okay.
So now he has to deal with the money side. Maybe that's karma. I don't know.
Jordan Peele started out in comedy. And Shakespeare was very much a formula writer. Maybe this is his chance to come out of his chrysalis and show us what he can do. But I got the rose-colored geek glasses on, and I'm hoping here. And
for Peter Safran's case, his creativity for Warner Brothers is going to be signing checks. Don't get me wrong. It's great to sign checks because without checks being signed, stuff don't get made. But holy cow, that, again, I never would have seen that coming, but then I'm old and cynical and bitter, very bitter. But yeah, it looks very much like that they are wanting to get things going in a real way, even though they're still canceling projects left and right. Although we do know now that we are getting a second season of Peacemaker. That's already, and we also know that we are definitely getting a second season of Sandman.
Yes!
Yeah, that was announced.
So happy.
Yeah, there is so much good stuff that the fact that we may be able to see more of the family, and there are some really interesting stories, which they set up in season 1, toward the end of season 1, the whole thing with Lucifer.
Right, yep. Getting ready to go to war.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, Lucifer's solution in the comics was not what you expected.
Okay.
You realize, holy cow, Lucifer is smarter than we thought. So,
Lucifer would have to be. So
yeah, Lucifer's solution is inspired, and that's all I want to say about it. But yeah, I'm excited about that. I did get the chance to go to the theater and see Black Adam.
Okay.
And again, the mid-credit scene, you probably know about that already. Henry Cavill.
Yep.
You've lost him from The Witcher.
We did lose him as The Witcher, and I had assumed, wrongly so, that it was because he was coming back as Superman that he wouldn't have time for Witcher. But apparently there have been some creative differences on the set and about which way the storyline should go, and Henry Cavill was reluctant to go the way that they're wanting to go with that, which... Yeah. That'll be okay. I believe in Liam Hemsworth. What I've seen him in, he's done very well. I don't have a problem with someone taking over the role like Doctor Who or any other time that they change an actor. It's okay with me. I'm excited to get him back as Superman.
I wish, and this is going to be a theme for a lot of things that I'm going to talk about today with you, but there are a lot of times when I just wish I didn't know some stuff. I wish things had not been spoiled for me, whether it was a situation where the studio wasn't trying to get it spoiled, but somebody online did it, or they deliberately spoiled the damn thing because they felt like they needed to get people to show up, whatever that is. There's a lot of times when I would just have rather not have known. Constantly, I find myself going, God, I just wish I could have been surprised by that. Can you imagine how wonderful it would have been to be watching Civil War and Tony Stark winds up in Queens and this guy walks in who calls himself Peter Parker and you had no idea?
Right.
That would have been amazing. I would have loved that. But, of course, that didn't happen. Can you imagine seeing Spider-Man No Way Home and not knowing that we were getting the other Spider-Man?
Right.
I would have loved that, but I understand marketing, and I understand that you got to kind of spill it a little bit, although they did try to keep the lid on it for as long as they could.
Right.
But, yeah, I can just, like I said, I just wish there were moments when I could just be surprised that it didn't wind up getting spoiled online, and I do whatever I can, honestly, to avoid spoilers whenever I can. But then you'll watch a trailer, and boom, there you go.
They tell the whole story.
They tell you the whole thing, and it can be disappointing at times, but at the same time, yeah, there's so much good stuff coming in, and I did enjoy Black Adam. It wasn't groundbreaking, but as I'm fond of saying, it was The Rock blasting bad guys with lightning, so of course I'm going to enjoy that. I wasn't as big a fan of Smile. I did see Smile finally.
Oh yeah, the scary movie.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it was bad. I'm going to say it was familiar.
Okay.
I think I'm starting to reach a point now where I have seen so many horror movies that something has to be special and unique, and it has to try to do something that you don't see a lot. I think that's the reason why Black Phone really impressed me.
Okay.
Because it was just so different. It had a lot of great things in it. It had the tropes that you recognize in horror movies, but they did something different with them and fresh with it, and I enjoyed that. But Smile, it was creepy.
Yeah.
I will definitely say that. I wish they would have did something with the soundtrack because it was grating and annoying.
Oh, no.
It's like, you're supposed to be scared now. Well, then stop screeching in my ear.
Okay.
Let me be scared. But, yeah, it was definitely passable. And if you haven't spent most of your adult life, as I have, watching horror movies, yeah, it'll freak you out.
Okay.
But, hey, I got to watch a horror movie in a theater, and I always enjoy doing that. But
Shyamalan has a new one coming out called Knock at the Cabin, and it is based on a book called Cabin at the End of the World, and I just finished reading Cabin at the End of the World.
Paul Tremblay. Yeah.
Yes, and after reading it, I'm interested to see what M. Night Shyamalan does with it, and as far as like Unbreakable and Signs and what's the Sixth Sense goes, to see what he does with this script. I'm interested to see that.
A lot of the stuff he's doing now, I think there was a period toward the middle of his career after he had a bunch of successes, he started to become his own cover band. And that, for an artist, is a disaster. And so he had a lot of misses. And it seems like he's getting his mojo back.
Yeah, his hype outrode him.
Yeah.
You know, all of his movies get hyped up too much.
He really got stuck with this idea that he was supposed to have all his movies end in twists. Because he was that guy. He was supposed to be that guy that has the twist ending at the end of his movie. And if you know there's going to be a twist ending, how's it a twist ending? But he just kept beating that dead horse for all it was worth, But yeah, it seems like he's coming back to true to form. He's being more experimental. He's getting away to some degree from this idea of this is what an M. Night Shyamalan film needs to be. And I think that as long as he's willing to continue doing that, I think he's going to put out some really good stuff. The source material, obviously, for this is incredible. Definitely the source material has the seeds of a horror movie that I can't wait to see. So
Yeah.
I cannot wait. So we'll see about that. But even though Marvel's kind of died down a little bit because there's not a lot of stuff out right now, we're like in this calm before the storm. But now we're in November, and a week from today, we get the new Black Panther.
Oh, yep, Wakanda Forever. Yeah.
And I've been hearing dribs and drabs of reviews, which they have been pretty much spoiler-free at this point because, obviously, there's definitely going to be an embargo for reviews. Usually, the length of time that they hold a review embargo will tell you something about the film. Because if the review embargo is right up to, like, when it releases, there's a problem.
Okay.
Don't say anything about this film until we get people in there.
Okay.
Usually, the embargo will lift, like, a week before to build up buzz if the reviews are going to be good. But again, I always want to be careful about reviews because I don't want to be spoiled. Most of the reviews I read, they're really good about not doing that. So that's a plus. But I've been hearing so much about Namor. Namor steals every scene he's in, and I'm like, fantastic. It's going to be a difficult film anyway because, again, Chadwick Boseman is gone.
Yep.
Ryan Coogler has been doing interviews, and he was talking about how had Chadwick Boseman still been with us, the tone of the film wouldn't have changed that much.
Really? Okay.
Because a lot of what he wanted to explore was T'Challa's dealing with the events of Endgame and he'd been dusted for so long.
Right, for 5 years, gone for 5 years.
Yeah,
So.
what happened with his kingdom while he was gone, what happened with Wakanda. And there was going to be a lot of issues about that. And so it was going to go a little bit grimmer.
Yeah.
And so tonally, it would have been similar, but obviously with the fact that Chadwick Boseman passed away and that they are leaning into it, and we are going to T'Challa's funeral in this movie. They've not at all hid that fact. And
Right.
of course, that's a very polarizing thing, obviously, because there's some people that feel like in honor of Chadwick Boseman and what he did, you can't just turn around and just put somebody else in the role. But other people are absolutely upset about it because they're like, this is an important character.
His story wasn't over.
Yeah, his story wasn't over. You don't have a lot of characters like that in movies, and you can't afford to be without one. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching it. And that's in a week. And then, did you get to see the trailer for the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special?
Was it a teaser? I may have seen it. Did they kidnap a celebrity?
Yes, they
yes,
did.
Yes, I did see it.
Yes, Star-Lord's favorite celebrity, Kevin Bacon.
And playing himself. Oh, and I love when celebrities play like ridiculous versions of themselves. I just love it. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah. That was funny as all get out. They said they're going to be doing a lot more of these Marvel specials, and I am really excited to see this one because we know it's going to be light and happy and all that, where Guardians of the Galaxy 3 isn't. Yeah, this is here's this funny comedy.
We rip your heart out.
Before we rip your heart out for the last one. Although, because it seems like that's what they're doing with trilogies nowadays. Clerks 3, which I saw in the theaters. Oh, man. Here's the thing. I don't want to go into a whole lot of details about it. Again, I don't want to spoil it if they haven't seen it. But I remember seeing a friend of mine on Facebook they were going through some rough patches. And they're like, oh, I'm going to go see Clerks 3. I just need some silly, mindless laughter right now. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, I can't spoil it. But at the same time, I'm like, this is not that movie.
Oh, no.
It is not that. It's like, I never thought I would cry at the end of a Clerks 3 movie. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be possible, but I did. They went there. It was rough. It was one of the most heartbreaking endings I've ever seen in a movie. Wow. And toward the end, it went a little more bittersweet, but oh my God. It was, like I said, I couldn't believe that it went where it went. Since we're talking about beginnings and endings, and it's been a minute since I've pushed this button, I'm going to push the button. So I have to at least push the button. because we haven't. But we did finally get our final Jody Whittaker episode of Doctor Who.
Farewell to Jody.
Yeah, the Farewell to Jody. And I watched it because of AMC Plus. Mm-hmm. They released the full streaming version of it at the same time when it was released live on BBC America. And so I was starting to watch it on BBC America, and during the first commercial, I checked AMC Plus. It's like, oh, it's there. I'm like, I'm going to watch it without
the commercials, yes.
And I started watching, and even though I started it over from the beginning, from the first commercial, and once I had finished it, out of curiosity, I turned BBC America back on, and they were only 3/4 of the way through.
Oh, my goodness.
That's how many commercials that they got.
Wow.
So even given a head start, I still crossed the finish line.
Wow.
But I know you know a little bit about it, but you haven't seen. So I won't go into a whole lot of details, but there are a couple things I do want to talk about. And I had written something on someone's post about the last episode, because I have a theory, and I can't prove any of it, and we all know how my theories go. They're my little fancies, but they're very seldom true. But as I was watching this episode, as I was watching some of the interactions between the characters, when I was watching the dance number, and your eyes just went up, dance number?
Yes.
Yeah. It reminded me of something that I haven't seen in a long time. Now, one of my favorite writer books, as far as like biographical background stuff, is called A Writer's Tale, that was written by Russell T Davies. And he talks about a lot of the stuff he went through as showrunner of Doctor Who. And one of the things that he mentioned was the fact that he would go over scripts that he got that other people wrote for the show. And very often they were great. But every once in a while, somebody didn't quite get the tone, or there was issues with the script, and what he would do is he would go in and he would do a rewrite, an uncredited rewrite, unless he had rewritten so much of it that he was required to take a screenwriter credit. But very often he would go in and tweak stuff.
Okay.
I think he did for this.
Really?
I really do. It feels so much like a Russell T Davies.
Does it?
Yeah, It does. It really feels like it. And again, I don't think he completely wrote the whole thing, but I feel like
he had a hand in it.
I feel like there was a lot of tweaks in there that were very much, oh, that's something Russell T Davies would have done.
Okay.
There was one scene that seemed like a one-to-one parallel to something that happened during Davies' era.
Okay.
It was like, I saw this in this episode.
Eccleston or Tennant?
Tennant. But I really got that feeling to it. And maybe that is not very generous to Chris Chibnall, because it's like you're saying he couldn't write an episode by himself. But this is my view on this, being the old, bitter geek whose geek-colored glasses faded and cracked years ago. I would much rather believe that Russell T Davies came in and fixed this script and made the show one of the best ones of this era. Probably I would say the best show of this era. I would rather believe that's what happened than to believe that Chris Chibnall wrote this episode by himself, wrote a great episode by himself, and never wrote another one for Jody Whittaker over the entire course of
the last few years. Just
he had that in him, never used it. That's my old bitter geek version of being generous to Chris Chibnall.
Okay. Oh, but we have the good news of Disney taking the Doctor Who episodes. So
yes, they are going to be...
They're going to be available, and I'll be able to watch them.
Yes, and they're going to be the exclusive. So, except for, I think, for Great Britain and Australia, if you want to watch Doctor Who next season, which will be November of 2023, there's going to be a 3-part episode in November. And with, of course, we got to say it, David
Tennant.
It
was great.
The 10th/14th Doctor.
Yes, Georgia Tennant posted, daughter of the 4th Doctor, girlfriend of the 10th, and wife of the 14th. And I was like, oh, I love her so much.
Yeah, for sure. The funny thing was, there was all this talk, the BBC says, oh, he's not going to be the 14th Doctor. Yes, and Benedict Cumberbatch isn't Khan. It doesn't
Right.
work.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't work. The minute you say that, we know that you're lying.
Maybe we can get Benedict Cumberbatch as the master finally.
Maybe. I guess we'll find out.
Or Hugh Lowry. Really wanted Hugh Lowry to be the master during Peter Capaldi's run.
But the thing about it is, there were some really just wonderful, heart-wrenching moments in this. Again, I don't want to say a whole lot about this because I don't want to spoil any of this for you, because you definitely want to watch this. But if you like some of the older stuff in Doctor Who, you're really going to be into this.
Exciting.
You're going to love it. There were some things in there, going back to what I was talking about before, my wishing that some things wouldn't have gotten spoiled. Like, I would have loved to not have known that David Tennant was next in line. Can you imagine what that would have felt like to watch that scene? Which, let me ask you, have you actually seen the scene?
I've seen the regeneration. I didn't see anything leading up to it, but I saw it.
So you have seen the regeneration scene. I love that throwback to about the teeth.
Yes, I recognize these teeth. Yeah, but like it regenerated his clothes. Like I would have liked to have seen him wearing the gray coat and the suspenders, but that's fine.
Yeah, well, obviously there's something going on, and I'm not going to say it makes sense necessarily because that's not the way regeneration normally works. But there was a lot of weird stuff that happened in the episode, so it's okay, maybe I can go with that because there was just like a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah, but that's been this doctor, the
yeah.
whole timeless child. This doctor has, this Time Lord, the doctor, this creature.
This creature who we thought was a Time Lord.
That we thought was a Time Lord. So
but
rules. What are the rules?
Yeah, we don't know anymore. Honestly, I love this episode. It was fun. Again, it was probably the best episode of the Jody Whittaker era that we got. There was just like some really great moments in it that I wasn't expecting, and that was the thing. There were some surprises in there that I was like, oh, I didn't know about this. Which in some ways annoys me because I'm like, okay, you can keep a secret when you want to, obviously. And that's all I got to say about that. This is definitely something we'll have to talk about after you've seen it. But
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the future of Doctor Who. And, I'm happy about it being on Disney, and I'm ready to watch.
It just seems like Disney's trying to grab up everything. If they get Doctor Who, and with all these rumors that they're thinking about buying Warner Brothers.
Okay.
So are we going to start seeing the Avengers versus the Justice League?
Yep.
So who knows? Who knows? But there's been a lot of great stuff out there that I've been watching. I'm still haven't gotten through all of Cabinet of Curiosities, but wow.
Me either, but the ones that I've seen, wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great throwback to those old anthology TV shows from the 90s.
The Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah. Tales from the Dark Side.
Tales from the Dark Side.
And things like that.
Amazing Stories.
Yeah.
You remember Amazing Stories?
Oh, yeah, I do. So I love that kind of throwback feel, and I've been enjoying the heck out of those.
Monsters. Monsters.
Freddy's Nightmares.
Freddy's Nightmares. I forgot about Freddy's Nightmares is a really excellent one because it would have the two tales where there would be the person who was the main and the second tale was a smaller person in the first part. I really enjoyed that about Freddy's Nightmares.
Yeah, you had that thread that ran
through. A thread. Yeah, I wish that they would do more along those lines.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I've been enjoying that. And of course, Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, yes.
I like their take on it, that it's not exactly the book, but the spirit is definitely there.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really interested to see what happens with that. And I've also been watching The Last of the Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it at this point. I'm still waiting to see how things develop. But they are definitely being nostalgic in the fact that, hey, you remember all those times when we'd make you like characters and when we torture them in front of you? Here we do it again. We want to remind you of what you loved about the show. Not going into spoiler territory, but man, our intrepid zombie fighters are having it hard. They're having it really difficult. And I didn't believe that after the Whisperers that they would be able to match the darkness of that season, because that was like dark as all get out. But you really get this feeling this is not going to end well for anybody. There's no happy ending at the end of this, except for the small handful, count on one hand number of people who've got their own shows coming. But
we shall see.
Yeah, we shall see.
We shall see.
So with that said, we come to the end of episode 170. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views. with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.